Alrighty guys, so it's 2 days after ADCC trial, so I'm going to go through some of my matches. I'm going to go through three of my matches that I won. Reason being is because they're more or less kind of like a similar sort of match, like same strategy, things like this. I want to go through the Bilal match separately because there's a lot of different aspects I want to talk about with that in terms of why I think the decision went the way that it went, which I think was a fair decision, and just talk about a bunch of other things like related to that match versus these ones are a lot more straightforward, and it's a lot of the same elements sort of to talk about through these matches here. So we've got first my match against Peter here. So this is the 99 plus or 99 kilo plus division. So I'm weighing 85 kilos for those in the US. That's about, I think that's 185, and I think 99 is, I think that's about 220, I think, off the top of my head, maybe slightly more. Yeah, so I think, yeah, so I'm 185. These guys are over 220. And so the idea for this match here is I'm mainly just going to play like a, huge emphasis on guard retention and dealing with people who are going to try and put a lot of weight in towards me here. Like I wasn't really expecting any side-to-side passing through these matches here. So I'm mainly focused on making connection, not allowing them to put weight into my guard in a way that's going to like sort of collapse my knees across my center line and just use this to mainly try and set up like K-guard style attacks. Now, through all these matches, I get 0 leg locks and it's all arm locks, and we'll sort of talk about this because as we're looking at sort of dealing with, attacks on the legs, people start presenting the upper body, and this is how it goes. And so you got my coach, Luke, running over to the corner there because he's running back and forth between mats there. And yeah, so Luke, very valuable to have him in my corner for, like pretty much like every match. And so main thing here is about just getting initial connection, which is what I really expected, was about like people sort of being quite cagey and not engaging with my guard there. And so if we just talk about this here, so a couple of different things, like I'm expecting them, like people are trying to pick up my feet. I'm trying to make, like even though, I'm not expecting outside passing, I still play with a relatively wide foot position because I want to be able to bring my feet across the hip there. I don't want to allow people to enter into body locks on me, so I want to make sure I'm keeping able to shoot like a foot past the hip and start immediately entering into K guard. I didn't really want to allow anyone to settle into a guard, but if we look at the hand fighting here, I'm mainly focusing on trying to, get to tricep grips very like similar to Lucas Canard. And so a couple of different things here is I will, even just you see for a very brief moment there, if we bring it back, where I will let someone grab my wrist with the intention of then coming across and then using this to try and grab with my other hand. But see, like playing very cagey. Less in this match, but you'll see it in my next match is also like the use of mercy grips to get people connected to me. If you remember when 2024, when I did Europeans, I was using that a lot in my matches just to sort of get people's grips locked in a little bit more. And I try and play like a relatively aggressive seated guard in the sense that I'm trying to just constantly come forward and just make connection and getting my opponents retreating. You see it a little bit more in the second match. And so you see here, like Peter's starting to try and control my ankle, but I'm trying to match by gripping up on the triceps, and see this here, because like as he goes to try and pick up my feet, if he tries to pick up my feet while I've got the tricep grip, I'm going to be able to shoot straight to K guard. So he recognizes this and starts pulling away. I'm trying to avoid reaching to the head, and so he does a good job here sort of timing this quite nicely, where I don't get a chance to pull in the tricep grip. So I'm trying to stay seated here. You can see this, like I'm trying to keep my head as far forward as I can, but he does a good job, puts me on my back here. I don't mind too much, and you can see the immediate self-frame because I'm anticipating him wanting to put weight into my guard here, and so I'm not too worried about this. And now this is, so from here, trying to bring my knee in front of his shoulder, not allowing him to get inside of my hip there. And see how I'm like shooting my foot across to his far hip. So making that quick little pummel to the outside. And then he puts himself on his knees. And so you see this here. So see how I'm angled on my side. But I'm trying to make sure my knee doesn't come inside and across his body too much. I want to make sure that my knee always stays somewhere on this line between his shoulder and hip and not allowing it to track inside. Obviously, this is not a good angle to show that because we're sort of side on. But like say if we use Matt here, the referee, just as an example, in front of you, you want to visualize a line from the shoulder to the hip, and you want your knee to stay sort of on that line the whole way. Outside of the line, it's no longer operating as a frame. Inside of that line, it's starting to get he's starting to get outside of that alignment of your two knees. He's able to start collapsing that down, things like this. So this is what I'm aiming for here, and this is a big thing I sort of focus on. See that there, and then reinforcing with like a tricep grip to stay sticky on connection. Now, as I start connecting on his leg, I don't mind this coming down because I want to sort of load his weight up and shift his weight across using more of like a body X there because it makes it easier for me to shift his weight. But see this here, if I feel like I'm starting to struggle with keeping my head towards his knee, see how I frame, I bring this knee back inside of the shoulder here and constantly using this. And now this is a little attack, and we don't have a very good angle of it right here. But what I'm trying to threaten here, as he's trying to frame inside of my hip to shut down my sort of effective frame there, because see how I bring it inside of the shoulder. He's trying to constantly pummel and get inside of my hip there. And what I'm doing, and you'll get a better look at this in just a second, but I'm trying to constantly pummel my knee to collapse his elbow down to threaten the triangle. And so like an opposite triangle threat here. So see this here, see how I'm constantly bringing that inside like this there to threaten that triangle like this here. So see how like he tries to frame inside of my hip here. I'm going to try it because right now I can't just shoot a triangle because his arm's in the way. So I'm going to use my knee to sort of bump his arm out of the way. And this will allow me to shoot the triangles. So see this here. So I use this knee inside, bumping this out of the way. And then now I can start shooting. But I'm going to look for the opposite triangle here because it's going to allow me to sort of stay in a better retention position. And then also as well, I'm closer towards getting to a K-guard. You can see this here. I feel him starting to posture away. And then I'm inverting my knee back inside. And see how, again, I'm going to come back and sort of threaten the triangle here. I've got that there, sort of using my knee to sort of deal with his arm. But he does a good job here. He's sort of throat posting on me, things like this, to stop me taking my head towards his knee. And this is a big deal when you're starting to enter into K-guard, especially against like a kneeling opponent, is you're going to be able to get underneath the knee, but you need to make sure you can bring your head towards their knee there for your grip to actually be effective. So this is really important because you don't want to be in positions where your hands are far and away from your head. This is the same with like, if we're talking like performing like a guillotine, ankle locks, heel hooks, these grips are quite weak when your head is far away from your hands. You want to make sure your head comes near your hands for your grip to be strong. This is the same with when you've got like a palm to palm gable grip connecting on the knee there for a K-guard. You don't want your head to be far and away. So quite important here. And see this here, I've got this sort of like cross lat frame. And then now I just consider changing sides just to sort of like see if I can sort of vary things up, especially as you find someone's overcommitted on one side there, if you can quickly change sides. But I don't quite get, like, I don't get a scoop there. I get like an overwrap instead. And so I'm starting to try and threaten, taigatamis and lat arm bars from here, which are a little bit different. They get confused for each other. So taigatami or a shotgun arm bar, mechanically different to a lat arm bar. And so you'll see in my two other matches, I hit two lat arm bars, not taigatamis or shotgun arm bars. They're slightly different, and like obviously it's like a semantical argument, but to me they're different because the mechanics of them are different to each other, where one is bridging into the back of the elbow and the other one is sort of using your thigh to break across the side of the elbow there. So we end up in K-guard here. See how, again, trying to use my shin in front there, and I actually am able to use this and a grip on his arm to off balance Peter off to the side here. So we watch this. So I'm trying to go in towards K-guard, see how, again, he's sort of got that, I say throat post, it's more my trap, but like the idea is that he's using his arm here to physically stop me bringing my head across. And so I take this sort of cross tricep grip. You'll see Lucas Cannard use this one a lot. And then I'm also using my knee shield here, almost like a body X in a way, but not quite, to off balance, to start bringing my head, and see how now I'm able to get my hands connected like close to my head here. And now what's going to happen is Peter's going to be using this arm of his here to stop me connecting my leg to the back of his hips there. And I've got organized to film later in the week some like modifications to K-guard that I'm using to get sort of more favorable results, especially when people are sitting back on you. But right now, main thing here is he's using his arm to block me bringing my leg across, because if I can't connect my right leg over towards his leg here, then I don't actually have any attacks going. I've got a K-guard, but I can't do anything with it. And so this is a really common reaction you're going to get. And so I look to try and threaten the coil lock, which is effectively just an Americana variation done with your legs there. And this has got quite a decent number of views just recently on Instagram. And this is, I was trying to find the original clip where I saw this. This is something I've been using for a very, very long time. The OG variation of it here is doing it from K-guard. I can't remember. I either got it from an Eddie Cummings video, but I can't quite actually find it. And I thought that was quite a long time ago. Or it was a John Calistine video and he got it from Eddie Cummings. But either way, this is something I've been using for, I'd say, at least 6 years at this point, quite a long time. Quite a nasty sort of option there. I really like this. But so I go to thread my foot inside, but you see for a brief moment there, my foot is stepping on my calf. I need to actually thread it all the way through, because it's going to do two things. Is I want to put pressure in towards his hips there to help keep his head down. Anytime sort of trying to break someone's posture, like say, for example, imagine like this is someone's hips here and that's their head, and maybe this is their legs here, but you're trying to keep them sort of bent. People oftentimes focus on pulling down on the head to try and, keep the posture broken, but you can also push on the hips here. And so sort of like you imagine like getting pushed into the hips, there's some things like it's going to, or imagine if your hips are back and something's pushing in the front of your hips and you're trying to rise, like get your head to lift there, it's going to be difficult for you. So keeping that wedge in front of the hip. But the other thing too is as I thread my right foot through, it doesn't just wedge his hip, but it also is going to apply the braking mechanic where it rotates his elbow. Imagine here, my thigh or my hip there is what keeps his right arm wedged, and then my leg pressuring on the elbow there to apply that Americana pressure, and you're going to get a ton of pressure on the inside of the elbow. So I have to use my hand though to assist with it here. I don't quite have I have the flexibility, but not the dexterity to throw my leg into the perfect position. So I thread all the way through. Now, you'll notice I still keep the K guard position here. So I've got my left leg still over the hip, because what I'm generally anticipating is him pulling his head away, ripping his arm out and shifting the weight off of his leg here, which means that his leg's now vulnerable to attack. And this can happen oftentimes. But I do a good job here. See how I've set this into his hip. So notice like his head lowered just then as my foot goes in front of his hip. And then from here, now as he's trying to posture away, it's going to be quite difficult. And you see this internal I think it's internal, actually no, it's external rotation technically. External rotation of his arm here that applies the pressure to his elbow. So it generally doesn't, it can affect the shoulder, but you'll generally find the elbow is what goes first. And so that made like a nasty pop from what I recall. But he afterwards, Peter said like he was okay. I think he said he was also going into that match with a little bit of a elbow injury. So what we're anticipating a lot of the times here is him trying to block my leg coming over, so we're threatening with this coil lock here. There's a couple of different names you'll see people throwing out there. A lot of people trying to call it like a variation of a mirror lock, which is kind of odd because a mirror lock is a variation of an Americana, and I would say this is just another variation of an Americana. It's they've all got the same mechanic of like that sort of like external rotation of the arm there versus the Kimura. It's that like the internal rotation. But yeah, I would say this is Americana variation if anything, and everyone's very fixated on being a mirror lock for some reason. But either way, it's called a coil lock. This has been the name for it for quite a long time. I think actually it might have even been a guy called Krishnamurja, who was actually Eddie Cummings's first coach, who I might have seen this from. I'm trying to find the video, and I can't find what I have in my memory is like the first time I sort of just checking that there. In my memory, the first time I sort of saw this. But Peter, lovely gentleman, very nice after the match too, and had some kind words to say about me on Instagram, which I appreciate. It was very, very nice of him. He was lovely. Super quickly, if you're enjoying the video, like and subscribe. And then next match here, we've got Sonny from One Purpose. So I think Sonny is actually probably my weight. Like even though we're in 99 plus, I suspect just because like physically seems about the same size as me roughly, maybe even potentially lighter actually. But I'm also very, very nice. He was very lovely before the match too. And so this is overall similar sort of match here. So we're going to see same sort of thing, like CD guard position. I'm looking for the same strategy, trying to end up towards like K guard situations. I end up in more of a close guard here, and this is the same for the bronze medal match too. But I'm thinking about just trying to pursue, and you can see this here, just playing a CD guard, and because I'm happy with getting connection on the guy, I can play quite aggressive there. And so you can see here, I'm a little bit, because I've had the first match, I'm a little bit more warmed up too. I'm a little bit faster twitch, trying to retract my feet here and see how I get that sort of connection on the tricep there. And this is, to be fair, this is also 2 hours after my first match, but I actually stay quite warm through the course of the event there. And so see how I'm trying to, for the most part, avoid putting my hands on the floor there. And now going back just when we're talking about like how I have so much trust for Luke, he's great to have in my corner. He's so good at just like making sure he gives me suggestions to take me out of like tunnel vision if he feels like I'm getting stuck in situations. And we have a very good like back and forth communication style when it comes to matches. Sorry, my phone keeps vibrating. I'm just going to move that for a second. We have very good like back and forth communication, even like on the mat, like where I think IBJJF you're not allowed to talk, ADCC you're allowed to talk, but like we're good. Like he'll say stuff to me and I'll generally give him a nod or I'll give him a shake. Like if I either agree or like acknowledge what he's saying, or even if I'm like, no, I don't want to go down that route. And you'll see this here. He's talking about me starting to reach towards the head, and I shake my head there because in general, if I'm going to play from a CD guard position, I'm not going to reach towards the head because I don't want to create this big elbow separation. Just in general, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea overall to be reaching to the head from a CD guard. I've spoken to you guys about that before. Sort of a notable example of this is Sebastian Attard versus Anton Manenko from ADCC Trials 2022, where Sebastian reaches to the head and Anton jumps the triangle. Even back in 2019 when I was training with Craig and we were in Thailand, he talked about some wrestling up options where you can grab towards the head and ankle pick, but you've got to be really, really careful even following some to the floor with a collar tie because of the vulnerability on the arm there. You've either got the arm bars, the triangles, and things like this. So anyway, all that to say is just like Luke and I've got a very good communication style. You watch my match with Tallis and you'll see me shaking and nodding my head through the course of the match there as like he's saying things to me and I'm trying to give him feedback. And this is what I mean. Like it's not even that like every single time Luke says something, I'm like, I'm going to do it, but it's like he's always going to put good advice out of there and get me thinking about what's going on and take me, breaking me out of being stuck on certain thought patterns. You'll see it in the Bilal match too. He says a lot of things to me, and I'll point that out sort of as it's happening that really broke me out of certain tunnel visions. But so as I'm pursuing here, trying to stay seated, trying to stay aggressive, and see that I'm trying to like keep my feet a little bit away because I want to, ideally while he's standing, enter into the K guard. And so I'm trying to like get some sort of connection on him here, and I'm not too worried. I'm trying to like just come forward. I know, and so I considered a double Kuchi for a second there, and so here we go. We see it here. So we'll take it back a little bit. So just a little bit here, just a little brief sort of like double Kuchi. I'm not a big fan of it, so you'll notice like I don't really commit all that strongly to it there. I only briefly put my hand to the floor because I've moved away for the most part from doing it, but I think I started trying to do it because I was getting a little bit sort of frustrated because we're 50 seconds in and I feel like, wasn't getting too much engagement. But then as I started to go for it, I was like, oh, no, I shouldn't commit to this because like really I don't want to get frustrated and make some mistakes. He starts stepping in. I'm able to shoot my foot past the hip there and immediately start looking for this K guard. And so he drops down to his knees here. And so I'm starting to look now to go in, but he basically brings himself in towards a closed guard here, and I don't mind. I'm just chilling at this stage now because I'm like, okay, I'm happy because I've finally got some connection. I believe, yeah, he takes a body lock here, and there are a lot of people, I think, in the corner, in the crowd and stuff are like calling out that he's stalling because really there's not much that can be done from a body lock. And I think like Sonny's just trying to like stay defensive. Like, so I'm not going to fault him for it really. Like it is what it is. Because I think like the strategy for a lot of these guys would be to try and take me to overtime just because the size difference will matter a lot more in the wrestling, even though obviously Sonny, I feel like is maybe closer to my weight. That I still feel like that's probably the strategy for most of these guys. And so I'm sort of threatening just to get him moving a little bit and getting his hands away from the body lock because it does shut you down from doing a lot of things from closed guard. It doesn't allow them to do anything. But so I just thought I'd sort of threaten Ezekiel here. Luke calls out to me to make sure I don't burn my arms out on it. But really, I'm not actually trying that hard with it there. I think even for a moment, and you see me nod my head there when he's saying like, yeah, don't burn your arms out. And I think he's even saying, I can't remember what he says here exactly. Let me take it back because I want to show the sort of nod of the head there. Yeah, see, I'm like just nodding my head there, like listening to him, acknowledging what Luke's saying. And so he's trying to work the body lock here. Might have been trying to work towards a Sao Paulo pass even. And so I just placed my feet on his hips there at this stage. And so initially here, I start throwing my leg over his shoulder because I'm thinking about maybe trying to go more towards like an opposite triangle. See this here, like playing this sort of like clamp guard position, trying to get control. So then I can break his posture and then shoot my left foot up and over his shoulder. But then I find from here as he starts posturing up, I start just reaching for this scoop grip here. And I'm happy to then just now start to turn the corner and using this to start going in towards my armbar. So the idea here, and slightly different gripping to how I've sort of shown it before, but this idea of like pendulum style setups towards armbars from a closed guard I think is very important. It probably the best way to approach like a closed guard armbar rather than the more traditional like pass the arm across, climbing your legs up, this sort of thing. I think this is better. This is much more dynamic because then the idea is that as I'm looking to threaten this arm, similar to the coil lock threat, Sonny postures away. I now have access to his legs there. So I'm thinking about here, turning the corner, getting my hips up, getting this nice angle here, making sure I'm controlling. And then this is where I'm saying like, okay, it's a lat armbar because I'm actually pressuring my hips in towards his elbow, curling my heels to my butt here. Notice this. And then the idea is that like if I feel him start to pull his arm out, I'd be dropping down and trying to attack this leg. So look at this once more, just this initial sequence here where I'm looking to try and go towards like more of like a clamp guard because especially I've got my left knee inside of the shoulder here trying to angle on my left hip. But see this, he does a good job. See how he weights himself over this side. So instead, I start thinking about trying to turn the corner instead, just like this here. Dragging the arm in, pendulum style setup towards the armbar, expecting sort of responses where it might be he rips the arm away, things like this, which then allows me to go into lower body, and then I get the tap. If you're enjoying the content, check out Atomic Dojo, where you get access to online jiu-jitsu coaching. It's over 1,000 videos, you can ask questions and even get feedback on your rolling. Link down below. And then we'll go into the not the third match, but my last match, or my fourth match here. And so this is for bronze. This is probably against a guy who's like a true 99 plus. So there was Peter and this guy Duke. So Sonny, I could be totally wrong. Sonny might be over 99, but it doesn't seem like it to me. But either way, so similar style match here where I'm expecting similar style, like not really wanting to engage with my guard. But I think, well, actually, sorry, not that he doesn't engage with the guard, but like not really any sort of substantive passing attempts. I'm mainly focusing on dealing with like heavy pressure, guys who are going to be stalling on their knees, and you see this here. And so I'm trying to play again with the knee shields here, making sure he can't just necessarily like smash my knees across the body, just like this. You see this here, so. And you see this like, yeah, so threatening the arm there just initially. So that's where I am actually looking for like a Tegatami sort of shotgun armbar here. See, I'm trying to sort of bring my right knee inside of the shoulder here. I'm trying to get the arm extended. He does a good job pulling away, and I'm making sure to come back towards, sort of my knee shields, K-guards here. See how he's like having to drop his head position. And this is something we talk about a lot, is this idea of, when they've got horizontal posture like this, head starting to come down, we're going to attack the upper body. And then anytime we feel that change in posture, head coming up and over the hips, we're going to attack the lower body. So horizontal posture, upper body, vertical posture, lower body. And so exactly this here. And see this, he starts trying to almost like pressure himself maybe into like a closed guard. And I don't like this because I feel like it's just like, again, like going to be used to sort of stall and get to overtime. And I believe Duke's a judo black belt and competed at like a decent level for that. So I don't really want to have to go to overtime, and he's got a heavy sprawl, so like I don't really want to shoot and just have my face smashed on the floor. As you can see, I'm nice and bruised from doing plenty of shooting in the match before. And so he's trying to work this sort of like Sao Paulo pass position here, so I'm just keeping control of the wrist, like this here, making sure that it's not easy for him to sort of, actually step over my leg. So I'm trying to keep control of this here, and I'm looking to generally try and shoot the triangle out of this. See this here, and see how he's trying to drive his head right over the top of my head here, but I'm able to throw my foot. And so this is where, as a response, he starts posturing up, and I have, again, like the lat armbar here. So as he postures up, I'm switching towards the arm. Then ideally, I'd be trying to go in towards more like a K-guard position. And then I get the finish there, so you can sort of see just like the angle here of this. So just elbow wedging, just looking to, actually this is probably more like actually like a Tegatami, because I am actually breaking across the side of the elbow here. So this I would say is an actual sort of Tegatami. I think I posted on Instagram and said lat armbar. I don't think about it so much that way. For this one, potentially could be still Tegatami. Again, like like the difference is not so much like the superficial side of it, but actually like the mechanic of what you're applying to the arm. But overall, they're both quite similar, same sort of situations you can apply them from. So if we come back, so main thing here, so I'm trying to threaten the arms a lot. It's interesting is like going into this, I ended up with 3 arm locks and no leg locks. So just trying to change sides here, threaten both sides, but see, just using the knee shield, trying to control the hands there. And so he's done a good job. Yeah, he forces his way in. And so see how he's got sort of his underhook here, trying to work sort of switching the hips, working this sort of like Sao Paulo pass position, because the idea is he's going to switch his hips, push this down, and look to either step over the knee or even knee cut over the top of my leg here. So I focus on just controlling the wrist there. There is some ideas of trying to hook my foot inside of his arm there. I don't think it would have really stuck, so I don't try it. And you can see here, trying to frame on the head, but he does a good job driving his head down, which collapses my arm. And so I think I take my left arm out here as he postures up, so I shoot the triangle, ending up in sort of like a 3/4 armbar situation. And so I believe he said this like in the match, like he didn't mean to do this, but he sort of taps, and I say to him, did you tap? And then he keeps going, and then he taps. But I think like just heat of the moment, like, the arm's getting threatened, you kind of making decisions fast, and maybe didn't realize that like he'd said that. And then he immediately just said like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like prematurely like tap there or fake tap there. So I genuinely believe it was unintentional. But either way, and this is why, like, you make sure you don't just like let go of everything. And then he taps there, and like he acknowledges it there. And this, yeah, this is where he says, he was like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so this is like general strategy for my matches. There was mainly to try and focus on threatening like K guards. I was expecting, honestly, to get more actual K guard attacks going, like actually solidifying that a little bit more, not ending up so much on more of these like close guard situations. I was like ready for it. Like my friend Kirk, who I've been training with a lot, he's I believe 110 kilos, getting a lot of training with him. Now the problem with Kirk is like his elbow hasn't been too good lately, so I haven't been able to threaten arms too much, but still was able to practice it a little bit in the lead up to this. And it was just very valuable training for me. So I just wanted to give you guys, like a bit of an idea for these three matches, because they're all relatively similar to each other, what I was looking for.